No guys, the answer isn't Rasgulla. Besides, it's Roshogolla. What are you?
শুদ্ধ ভাষা ভার্সেস সিলেটি ভাষা। কেমন আছো?
ভালো আছেন?
কি করো?
কিতা করো?
আমি তোমাকে ভালোবাসি।
আমি তোমারে ভালো পাই।
এদিকে আসো।
Notice how the lyrics read Bodo Loker Beti, but it is pronounced as Boro Loker Beti. In Sanskrit is Patha, and in Bengali becomes Potho. Ant, Anta, Onto. And therefore, this isn't Vivekanand, it is Rabindranath Tagore and Vidyasagar that Bengali became a language that people loved and celebrated.
অর্থাৎ বাংলা ভাষার মানুষ হয়েও আমরা কখনো এইভাবে কল্পনাও করি নাই যে কিভাবে এই বাংলা ভাষাটা এত সফট। অবশ্য এই ভিডিওটাতে যেইভাবে বোঝানো হইল আসলেই দুর্দান্ত ছিল।
I don't speak Bengali, and probably you don't as well. But if you're anything like me, you probably also feel that the language is really sweet. It's like it does not have any sharp edges, and it melts right away in your ears. Well, the question has been on my mind for ages, and it's time to answer it. Why does Bengali sound so sweet? I know what you're thinking. No guys, the answer isn't Rasgulla. Besides, it's Roshogolla. What are you even saying? Bangla or Bengali is a fairly young language that has evolved from Magadhi Prakrit in the 10th century AD. It is the 6th most spoken language in the world and 2nd most spoken language in India. But there isn't just one type of Bengali. Bengali's dialects have spread all over Bengal and Bangladesh, and they actually sound really different from each other. Take for example Sylheti Bangla spoken in Bangladesh and Kolkata Bangla called the Standard Bangla.
শুদ্ধ ভাষা ভার্সেস সিলেটি ভাষা। কেমন আছো?
ভালো আছেন?
কি করো?
কিতা করো?
আমি তোমাকে ভালোবাসি।
আমি তোমারে ভালো পাই।
এদিকে আসো।
সবাই দিও।
Also notice how Kolkata Bangla differs from Chittagonian Bangla.
শুদ্ধ বাংলা হচ্ছে আমি তোমাকে ভালোবাসি। চট্টগ্রামের ভাষায়
হাতে তোমার বেশি গম লাগে।
তুমি কোথায় যাচ্ছ? চট্টগ্রামের ভাষায়
তুমি হন্ডে জ্বর।
Notice how Chittagonian and Sylheti seem to have a bit of Sino-Tibetan influence in them. Because the video is directed towards India, the discussion would be limited to the Standard Bengali, or the variant of Bengali that's spoken in the Nadia district in West Bengal. So with that context, let's come back to the initial question. Why is Bengali so sweet? In our last video, we talked about the retroflex lla, and we saw how Bengali does not have the sound or even the letter. But lla is not the only retroflex. There are other retroflexes as well. For example, the retroflex rna, rda and rdha. Bengali has letters to denote these sounds, but guess what? Just like lla, Bengalis never use these sounds. They pronounce these letters exactly like the softer na, ra and ra. Listen to the song played in the beginning. Notice how the first line, Preme Pora Baron, actually uses the letters da and na, but they are never pronounced using their original sounds. To give another example, here's a popular song adapted in Bollywood. Notice how the lyrics read Bodo Loker Beti, but it is pronounced as Boro Loker Beti. Retroflex sounds lend an element of crispness to languages, and by avoiding these, Bengali words become easier to pronounce and they are free-flowing. Bangla also vastly simplifies its sounds. Take for example the 3 sa sounds, as in sa, sha and sha in Hindi. Bengali has the corresponding letters, but they are all pronounced the same, sha. There are few exceptions here and there, but largely sha dominates over sa. Take for example the word Sanatan in Hindi. Now in the word, the first sa is used. And when you write the word in Bengali, you also use the word sir, but the pronunciation of the word happens to be shonaton.
Sanatan. Shonaton.
Linguists suggest that the sh sound is perceived to be softer than the s sound, and that is another reason why Bengali words sound so soft. Another interesting thing to note is that the Bengali script came much later after the language. The script evolved from the Siddham script, which was greatly influenced by sounds that were used to denote Sanskrit. But the issue was that many of these concepts in the script, like badiyu, chotiyu, they were never really part of Bengali. Therefore, even if the language uses these vowels, in practical Bengali, there is absolutely no difference between badiyu, chotiyu, badi e or choti e. Take for example the pronunciation of deen and din. Now the translation into Bengali, the words are pronounced exactly the same. Deen and deen.
Din din. Din din.
Bangla has another interesting property where it likes to simplify its consonant clusters. A consonant that is attached to the sound ma, for example, is pronounced as the letter itself. Take for example the word Lakshmi in Hindi. This word is pronounced as Lokhi in Bangla. Also take the example of Bhishma in Hindi. This is pronounced as Bhisho.
লোকে সর্বদা তোমায় পূজা করবে আর তোমায় ভীষ্ম নামে সম্বোধিত করবে.
Also the sound ksha is simplified to kya. This property is not just unique to Bengali but also Odias do it. Notice how this Bangladeshi news reporter, for example, pronounces the name of the actor.
Welcome to New York. My question is Deepika and Akshay both.
So instead of saying Akshay, he says Akshay. As you see, Bengali tends to keep this consonant-vowel structure and really does not like this consonant-consonant pair. And therefore, the sounds sound softer because of the vowel present. Disclaimer alert, which means the most fun part of the video is here, so pay attention. One of these two shapes is called Kiki and another one is Boba. Can you take 5 seconds to figure out which one is Kiki and which one is Boba? Well, if you guess that the second one is Boba and the first one is Kiki, you are correct. Linguists have found that we associate the O sound, like in Boba, to be soft and rounded, while the E sound is harsh and spiky, which is why we associated Boba with something circular and Kiki to be something sharp. And as some of you might have guessed, that brings us to the point why Bengali sounds so sweet. Consider these pair of Hindi-Sanskrit words. Ram, Rama. Rachna, Rachana. Ved, Veda. Notice how Sanskrit adds an A sound to the end of each letter, while Hindi does not. Almost like there is a halant on the end of each letter. The A sound that Sanskrit adds is called Shwa. And this isn't just unique to Sanskrit. Several languages have Shwa in them. Nepali, for example, would call this word Usako and not Usko. Odia calls this word Ghora, while a Hindi person would call it Ghar. Bengali similarly has Shwa in it, but interestingly, it's not A, it's O. Therefore, the Hindi word Vasant, which in Sanskrit would be Vasanta, in Bengali becomes Boshanto. Similarly, this word in Hindi is Path, in Sanskrit is Patha, and in Bengali becomes Potho. Ant, Anta, Onto. And therefore, this isn't Vivekanand, it is... No, not even that. It's Bibekanando. And therefore, because the Shwa is present in every word of Bengali, the O sound is abundant. And to connect it to the experiment in the very beginning, we saw how rounded sounds are associated to be more softer. That may be one reason why Bengali, in general, is perceived to be soft. Well, to conclude this video, let me leave you with some cultural trivia. Do you know that from the 18th century to the early 20th century, there was a cultural revolution in Bengal called the Bengal Renaissance? This revolution questioned the existing customs and rituals of the Indian society of that time. From the caste system to the dowry system and to the practice of sati, all of these customs were questioned. Bengal was seeing this cultural progress in all its fields: science, religion, arts, and literature. There was this hero in particular who I want to talk about, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Among many other things, he was a Sanskrit scholar and a polyglot. At that time, Bengali was considered to be an inferior form of Sanskrit. It didn't have an identity of its own. Vidyasagar ji was the one who formalized the script to 12 vowels and 40 consonants and removed the letters that were redundant, like Dirghori and Dirgholi at that point. He made all efforts to make the language of the masses and of the commons. It was this literary revolution that was triggered by the likes of Rabindranath Tagore and Vidyasagar that Bengali became a language that people loved and celebrated.
আর বাংলা সাউন্ড অনেক সুন্দর এবং অনেক মধুর। আমরা তো জন্মের পর থেকে বাংলা বলছি, কারণ আমাদের মাতৃভাষা বাংলা। তো আসলে বাংলা শুনলে আমাদের কাছে অনেক ভালো লাগে। হ্যাঁ, এটাকে আমরা অনেক ভালোভাবে ফিল করতে পারি।
মুখে শুনবে বা অন্য ভাষাভাষী মানুষের মুখে শুনবে তখন মনে হয় যে না আরো সুন্দর সুন্দর মনে হয় তখন আরো বেশি করে।
Hey, they're using the O vowel and that's make the Bengali sweet. Oh, yeah, that's why. And I really want to learn Bengali language. I mean the Bangla. I really want to learn Bangla. And yeah, I hope that I can learn so fast.
ছিল মানে এখানে বাংলা ভাষা যে কতটা মধুর, মানে এত সুন্দর করে বুঝাইলো, মানে প্রতিটা অক্ষরের মাধ্যমে, বুঝছো, মানে অক্ষর দিয়ে বুঝাইলো যে কেন বাংলা ভাষাটা এত মধুর, তাই না?
বাংলা ভাষার মানুষ হয়েও আমরা কখনো এইভাবে কল্পনাও করি নাই যে কিভাবে এই বাংলা ভাষাটা এত সফট। অবশ্য এই ভিডিওটাতে যেইভাবে বোঝানো হইলো আসলে দুর্দান্ত ছিল।
Does balobashi means? Because you know Ranveer Singh has a one music song. Name is Balobashi.
I remember her writing the very first. She bought me a book, my first trip of hidden palaces of Kolkata, and inside she wrote to me in Hindi, Bengali, and in English. And I just, yes, I do have a prejudice toward it, but I love the sound of Bengali. I think it's a beautiful.